Hello, my name is Gilles Huot. I'm with the Cabbagetown Preservation Association, and I gave this presentation on November 30th, 2023. It's in the context of the future redevelopment of Parliament Street. We thought it would be a good idea to go back into the past and see the history of Parliament Street and see, maybe try to see where it will be going. So let's get started first by acknowledging that indigenous people have been on these lands way before we were. This is a painting by Paul Kane that illustrates fishing at night. And basically, that might have been happening right down the valley from us here in Cabbagetown, because the Don Valley was used very much by the indigenous people to fish, hunt, and also gather. Let's start by doing a bit of history, basically. So let's look at a few important dates. Like, as I just said, for millennia, the Don River Valley, and you can see here its indigenous name, and the surrounding territories were used by the indigenous people in the 1600s and 1700s. The French explorers and trading, came here and established some trading posts, but didn't really settle here. It's only 1793 that the Lieutenant Governor John Graves Simcoe moved his capital of, from New York, from Newark, which is today's Niagara-on-the-Lake, to York, which is the future Toronto, to be basically the capital of Upper Canada. In 1794, the Simcoe asked his soldiers to cut a trail so he could reach Castle Frank, which was his summer home, and that trail will become Parliament Street. In 1834, the city of Toronto is incorporated and has its first mayor. In the 1840s, the Winchester Street is cut and perpendicular to Parliament Street and connects the city going east and goes down the valley and connects the city with Riverdale. In the 1880s and 1890s, that's when most of Cabbagetown homes that we see today were built. And also from the late, if we look at our neighbors, in the Regent Park was built after the war in the 1940s, and St. James Town's towers were built in the late 1950s. And basic, and also for us, the in early 2000s, that's when the city started designating areas of Cabbagetown as a heritage conservation district. This is the an early map of 1802 of Toronto. We can see where the government house, would be at the mouth of, or near the mouth of the Don Valley that we can see here. And you see the what would have been the first iteration of Parliament Street, the trail, and that would kind of go all the way up to Castle Frank. Why is it called Parliament Street? Because at the foot of Parliament Street, that's where the Palace of Government or Government House was. It's the first Parliament of, of Upper Canada here in Toronto. And the trail, as I said, was going to Castle Frank, which was the summer homes of the Simcoes that you can see in a painting here by Elizabeth Simcoe. This is a drawing by C.W. Jeffries, who was also actually a Cabbagetowner. And this is the building of Yonge Street in 1795, but we can assume that the the building of Parliament Street would have looked like this as well, and it was about the same time. Then we can see the plan of Toronto with only a few streets, and at the time, the north border of Toronto was what Loth Street, which is today's Queen Street, and but we can see here that there is a street that goes up, and it is Parliament Street. We can see it here. So let's talk a bit about Regent Park now, which was also in the 19th century a very dense Victorian neighborhood. And you can see it from Goat's map, which dates from 1913. You can see that it was just like in Cabbagetown itself. It was all row houses and Victorian homes and everything. Just to give you an idea, you've got Gerrard Street up here, where the Toronto General Hospital used to be between um, Sackville and Sumac, and you've got the whole neighborhood here. There was quite a few industries near the valley, basically. Give you an idea of what it looked like. This is a still from a little movie of the National Film Board called Farewell Oak Street. And I've got a few pictures that show what Parliament Street at the level of Regent Park used to look like. This is at basically Parliament and Dundas. The tower you see there to the right was a fire hall that was on Parliament, sorry, on Dundas Street. This is another picture of another angle of this area, and this one is from 1954. These are some of the buildings that used to be there. The same here. It used to be, again, these are all at the level of Regent Park on Parliament Street. And this is, there was even a few theaters on Parliament Street at the time, and this is one of them, the Eclipse, which is gone today because it's been replaced well, it was first replaced, as you can see, that's what Regent Park started looking after the Second World War. And this is what it looks like today. Uh, this is a fisheye kind of lens, but you can see that Dundas and Parliament here, all the way up to Oak Street and around there, and then you've got construction going on for the new Regent Park, and this is Gerrard and Parliament. St. Jamestown has got this basically a similar, but not quite the same treatment. This is a map from 1913. Same, St. Jamestown used to be a Victorian neighborhood. You can see with row houses and everything. Uh, just to situate yourself, this is the St. James Cemetery just north of Wellesley, and these are basically where that Victorian neighborhood of St. Jamestown used to be. There's a few of those Victorian homes left, and they are at Bleecker and Howard, and they are being preserved, so which is wonderful. This is these are old archival pictures of um, homes on Parliament Street uh, that dates from various, like some of them are 1913, and this one is also 1913, but we can see that these are, Victorian architecture, and these have all been replaced by the towers of St. James Towns, basically. There's an outlier, or you know, a this house that you probably have seen. It's one of the few remaining Victorian homes. Also, it doesn't look very Victorian, but it was built in the late 1800, and it was in the same family for until 1910. And as the homes on Parliament Street were demolished, they and to make place for those towers, the owner would not sell. So, and that's why it's been basically a holdout, and it was renovated in 2012, and it's now a laundromat, which kind of looks very lonely there. Let's talk about now. We talked about the neighbors. Now, let's talk about Cabbagetown now. Cabbagetown between Gerrard and Wellesley. This is another 1913 map, and as you can see, just again to situate yourself, you've got the necropolis here and Riverdale Park, and the farm would be around here. You've got Carlton Street, and Parliament Street is right here. And if you look, there hasn't been a lot of changes to Cabbagetown or that Cabbagetown stretch of Parliament Street because it's all there still, or most of it still there. But I still have quite a few archival pictures to show you. This is basically a view from just north of Gerrard, looking north. You can see there's a St. Augustine, which was a church, and it's basically now the location of No Frills. So, and you can see in the distance the Hotel Winchester, which still had this picture is from the 1920s, so it still had its lantern, which it lost eventually, and it's been put back because if you look actually, this is um, picture from the a bit later on. This is probably from the 50s. You've got actually the Winchester Hotel in the back there without its lantern. And interesting thing, some of the interesting building would be like the Parliament Theatre, which was there, and basically this is now the location of the Dollarama on Parliament. This is another view of Parliament Street from just below Wellesley, actually. It's at Lancaster, I would think, and because what you see to the left was a gas station back then, and it's still the gas station that we have in the neighborhood. And all those homes are still there, except maybe for the one at the corner of Winchester. But the Winchester Theater, sorry, the Winchester Hotel is still up there. This is in the 1920s again. This is what it looks like today. Now I'm going to switch gears and talk about the buildings in place on Parliament. There's and it's not very scientific, but what I'm trying to do here is to show some buildings that are remarkable, some that are maybe remarkable but in need of some care, and some that may not be that interesting. So let's get started. Let's start with a remarkable building. So you can see this is where the Golden Pigeon here. This building is a Second Empire. You can see the mansard roof and everything, and it's a beautiful, beautiful building. This is at the corner of Carlton. It's the CIBC Bank. This is the side of the bank because the main entrance is on Carlton. However, you can see it's neoclassical and it's a beautiful, beautiful building. We've got also another remarkable building in the the Winchester Hotel, which you can see. This is the picture to the left is the hotel how it looked in the when it first opened in the 1880s, 1890s, and then I took a picture of when they installed the lantern at the top. Just across the street from it, you can see those buildings that are currently being restored, and they are gonna be wonderful as well. These are also Second Empire building with mansard roofs. A bit up the street, there's a stretch of what we call the Bay and Gable, and these homes or these buildings are in pretty good shape. Just up the street, you've got what we call Darling Terrace, which were built in 1877. And again, you've got a big row of those Second Empire. Just across the street from that, you've got the restaurant here, L'Avenue, and the building itself is beautiful with the turret and everything. It's basically a Queen Anne kind of style. You've got another, they've done a very good job in restoring this building, which is also a beautiful Second Empire building. There's some other buildings now that we're going to see that could be very beautiful if they were in better shape. Take, for example, this one. From the street, it looks like nothing, but if you look up, you look at the way the treatment of the windows, on the third floor and the border and the roof border and everything. We've got something similar here, but it's been very a lot of paint and paint that's going away. These could be beautiful buildings if they were cleaned up. You've got also some that are quite hidden, like this other Second Empire Beauty, but in front of which they put an extension which hides most of it. Same here, where you've got because most of the houses on Parliament Street still these are those that still stand were at first homes, and it's only later on that they became commercial, and very often they've added a section at the front. But as you can see, those are you know band gables to the right, and they could be beautiful if we could see them. Same here, where we've got building. If you look at the top, there's some details of those buildings that are quite amazing. Um, Same here, another row of bay and gable, another one here. And this is, we all know this one because it's kind of the corner of Carlton and Parliament. But again, look at the treatment of windows and the roof line and everything. It's just amazing. This building is not on Parliament Street, but it's on Carlton Street. But it shows how wonderful a storefront can be. Up the street on Parliament Street, we've got some of our staple, um, commercial venues here, pizza, coffee, fruit market, but we can't really see the buildings they are attached to because they are quite hidden. Same across the street, you've got a series of beautiful bay and gable buildings there that that are in need of TLC, and that I mean I hear that they will get it eventually. Um, Same. These are more recent. Another row of beautiful Ben Gable. You can see the Gothic influence in the pointy windows on the third floor. These are also very well hidden gems, to the left, Second Empire, and to the right, more Ben Gable. And also, we do have some buildings that are not necessarily that remarkable. For example, most of them are mid-century kind of a nondescript building, like this one just north of Gerrard. However, you may like to know that this dollar store, the left part of it, was basically the location of the first Harry Rosen. As you go up the street, you can see there's a more, um, you know, those buildings do the job. I would say, like for example, they were built to be stores and everything, and as I say, they do the job, but they are not necessarily they don't necessarily add to the the atmosphere or the quality of the street. Some others, and this one, of course, and this is basically the location. Also, I mentioned that there was a church there before. Just up from it, these buildings are not necessarily that interesting. Same here. Although I must say that our friends at Steaks and Chops and Kendall and Co did a wonderful job with very little, because this building looks great, but it shouldn't. Across the street, again, another building that's not necessarily that interesting, and just up the street as well. And you've got, again, it's a nice restaurant, but the building itself is not that interesting. This is also up the street from there, and Uh, there's actually a proposal, in front of the city for that site at this point, and that's the corner of, you know, Wellesley in Parliament. There are some examples of recent additions to the street that were put up there in the last 20 years, and they respect the kind of atmosphere or the look that the streets should have. For example, the TD Bank. You may or may not like this building, but on the other hand, I think what it's trying to do is blend with the neighborhood, like by the use of red brick, but also by keeping the height within the limit imposed by the city, by the city bylaw. A bit up the street, the same thing here on both sides of Aberdeen. You've got two fairly new buildings, like from the last 15, 20 years, who that kind of try again to blend with the neighborhood. One trying to be more Victorian, I would say, the one to the right, while the other one is more modern, but it still blends fairly nicely in the neighborhood. Across the street from or up the street from it, you've got um, the Rexall building, which also tries to blend in the neighborhood, and this is also a recent addition just north of the Rexall, um, which are also blending in the neighborhood. So some thoughts, we see that Parliament Street has gone through various phases of evolution and mostly uncontrolled. And there were many remarkable buildings that are still here, but we also have some that have been lost forever. There's a mishmash of styles, storefronts, and care because sometimes buildings are in pretty good shape and sometimes they are not. Uh, there's no public spaces to speak of. There's no seating area. The sidewalks are narrower than they should be on an artery the size of Parliament Street. There's a multitude of poles, wires, and no coordination. It seems that the TTC doesn't talk to Hydro, that doesn't talk to the city, that doesn't talk to Bell, that doesn't talk to. So it's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion, that they would the ones putting up wires and posts would not be better coordinated. There's also a few dying trees along the street because the focus of the development of the city has of the street, I mean, has been on cars, buildings, and profits, and not on people or residents. Um, Now that we've seen the past, the present is almost or the present is with us, yes, but then the future is coming as well. Because there is a redevelopment proposal for this site, which is on the left. It's a dance theater and the Canadian Contemporary Dance Theater at 509. The Also the apartments the address of the apartments up here are 507, and there's an African restaurant, which basically the old pear tree, which is at 505. So there's a proposal to remove these buildings and put up a tower there, a 10-story condo tower. As you can see the notice on the wall there. But this building, particularly the 509, has an interesting history. It was first called the Carlton Theatre, although it's on Parliament. But first of all, before the theater was there, there was a row of Victorian homes that were demolished to and the first theater was built in 1914 with 700 seats, and then it was rebuilt in 1929 with 1,000 seats. And it closed in September 1954 to become a CBC studio. And from there were all sorts of things going on, like concerts, program, fairly well-known programs like uh, Metro Morning, with this guy who was a Cabbagetowner at the time, also the Royal Canadian Air Force. Um, Shameful plug, you see this guy here? This is basically Roger Abbott, who was also a Cabbagetown guy in the sense that he lived on Amelia Street, and unfortunately he died in 2011. And we do have his biography on our website, which is cabbagetownpeople.ca. You can, you have biographies of all the people who have a blue plaque in front of the homes, and also we have these are basically plaques on the street, and we also have biographies of, other remarkable people who lived in Cabbagetown but do not necessarily have a plaque. We have also a few biographies of people buried in the necropolis or the St. James Cemetery, and also a few infamous peoples and places. So I invite you to have a look at Cabbagetown People in one word .ca. So the proposal for the theater is looks like this. Things to keep in mind is that the current bylaw for height on Parliament Street is 4 stories, and this proposal wants 10 stories plus mechanical penthouse. There's a few issues with the proposal, and the city has been in negotiation with the the developer, and we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. There's been opposition to this for various reasons. Not that we are against redevelopment, but we are just opposed to a flawed proposal. There's a petition that gathered more than 1,450 names. So we'll see where it goes. The city, in the meantime, has started the designation under the Ontario Heritage Act of the 509 building, the old CBC theater slash dance company at 509 Parliament. So the redevelopment is coming. Uh, doesn't seem to be a master plan or a vision in place, and we would like that to change. So that's why at the CPA, we in our fall 2023 newsletter, we focused on the future of Parliament Street. So I invite you to have a look. You just go to our website, which is another address, the Cabbagetown PA for Preservation Association, cabbagetownpa.ca, and you've got quite a few pages on this, and it talks about some of the things I mentioned here, but a bit more. Some of the things also you might want to do is have a look at the master plan that the Cabbagetown BIA put together. It's basically to deal with the streetscape. Our vision would like to go a little further than the streetscape, but that's a good basis to start from. And you can see their document at cabbagetownto.com/policies. So the next steps for us is that on February 27, 2024, we'll have um, a panel discussion, um, and we invite you to come and see that. More details will be on our website, and we invite you to come and read about it from our website. So our goal is basically to make sure that the Cabbagetown community and not only developers benefit from the imminent redevelopment of Parliament Street. Thank you, and we hope to see you in February.